What's going on YouTube? I'm Evan and you're watching Cloud9 Aquariums. Today I want to get into the second part of my tank tour series, which today is going to be all about the equipment that's keeping this tank running. So I am going to try to blast through this relatively quick. We're not going to get into the super nitty-gritty details, talking about the specific spectrums or settings that I'm using on every single thing, but I just want to make sure that you have a brief understanding of all the different equipment that I'm using on it, and I'd be more than happy to dive into the more specifics of each equipment further on in a later video. So, for lighting, I'm using 3 AI Hydra 32s, and I'm using the AI HMS mount for it. As you can see, I also decided to throw on the 3 reefing diffusers over each light. The reason why I did that is I was noticing some hot spots in between the lights specifically, and while they did kind of decrease the actual power intensity that I was getting in the tank, they also helped to kind of minimize those hot spots, so I figured the swap out was worth it. In terms of the lighting intensity and power values, around the sand bed and on the base of the rock, we're running around 180 to 200. And then at the top of the rock work, where all the aquapora are, I'm shooting for anywhere from 350 to 380 right now. In terms of the actual glass box itself, this is a deep blue aquarium. I don't even believe they make those anymore. I got it used like a while back, but it was a killer deal, and I just love the dimension of it. So, the dimensions of this tank, I digress. The dimensions of this tank are 48 inches by 24 by 16 tall. It's an 80-gallon tank, and it was a reef-ready tank, so it was already drilled and all that jazz. For flow in the tank itself, on this side I'm using a Vortec MP40, and on this side I've got a Reef Wave 25, which is the Red Sea Gyre. The only other piece of gear that I'm running in the tank specifically, you may already notice it, it's the Eheim Auto Feeder. I like to use that just because it helps to keep my feeding very stable, so it also helps my nutrient load stay very consistent and stable. And when you're trying to run SPS, stability is king, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure this thing's stable. So the next thing we got to get into is all the goodies that I'm actually running underneath the tank itself. So for the stand, I chose to go with a door that actually has a little bit of a bifold to it, which is nice. It just helps to get them out of the way when you're working on the tank itself, which is just really handy and convenient and makes it working on it a lot easier. I tried to do as much organization as possible under here, although those of you with these reef tanks know that there's always too much gear to put underneath here and not enough room, so we're constantly kind of changing things up and seeing what's going to be the best way to run it. So I guess let's start with the actual sump itself. I'm just running a very basic acrylic sump. It does have a single baffle on this portion, which is just a chamber for the return pump, and I also have my ATO in there. In terms of return pump, I'm running a Jabo. It's one of the MDP 6000, I believe is what it is. It's one of the smart ones, and I really do. I'll let you have a little look at it. So far, it's been silent and really reliable, so I'm a big fan of that one. I've run a lot of Jabos in the past, and I have no problems with those. The price is always right, so can't complain. For the auto top off, you can kind of see I'm actually running an ice cap auto top off. I'm not even sure if they make them anymore, but it's been an absolute beast for me, so I just keep running it. Big fan. I guess we'll keep moving up here. Speaking of ice cap, I'm also running an ice cap algae turf scrubber. This is it's the small pro model, I believe is what it is. So it does sit up on top of legs, and it has its own pump, which is on the other side. And that's been working out really nice for me. I've only had that in here for about a little over a month now, but it's been growing great. Another new add-on to this one is this Max Spect Jump protein skimmer. This is the SK400, and this thing is an absolute beast. Huge fan of it. Has dual intakes, and it actually, I have it teed in. The air lines I have teed in to a line that actually runs outside, so I'm sucking outside air, which has been great for my pH, so big fan of that. Teed off of my actual return line, I do run just a basic BRS reactor that I have carbon on one side. I'm not running GFO or anything like that on the other side, but I do have the other side open if I do just need something, if I want to run GFO or something like that. I guess we'll just talk about what we can see right up the front. I've got my kalkwasser, big fan of kalkwasser, and then up here also I have my auto top off water. This is just nice to have in the front here because when I open these doors, boom, they're right there. I can see the exact level. These bins are great, you know, you can just see it. I used to run stuff in like a 5-gallon bucket, and you just like a basic Home Depot bucket, and you couldn't see the level of it anyways, so it was always just one of those things where either you're guessing, you have to constantly check in there, or you just wait for the alarm to go off. But like with calc, you don't have an alarm for it, so unless you're running like some form of a controller on it. So with that being said, these containers have been really nice for me. I just enjoy actually being able to see stuff at a glance. I do write down my daily elements and stuff for dosing there, just a quick little checkboard. My monthly corrections I also put over here as well too, so it's nice. I just use a dry erase marker and keep everything just kind of nice and tidy down here. You can see I have my big shelf of elements here. For those of you who run moonshiners, shout out to you. You guys understand. So these ones up front are all my dailies that I put in. And so far this system's been doing great for me. I've really never seen my tank look this good before, so I'm a big fan and I'm just going to keep doing it. So we'll see what happens. I guess the only other thing I didn't talk about, I do run an Eheim Jaeger heater in here. Same one that I run in all of my other tanks. I just have had great reliability with them. And then I do also have it on a Finex heater controller too, just as a redundancy, because it never hurts to have redundancies, especially on stuff like that. Moving around to the other side, I do have like a control panel side here. So here's where I'm running all of the controllers for all my different pumps. So you can see here's my return pump, here's my gyre pump, the MP40, here's a skimmer, and then over here I also have a dosing pump. This is one of the Jabo Smart ones. Again, kind of same thing, it runs on their ecosystem, and it's once you kind of get it linked up, I know it's kind of janky to get linked up on things, but once you do have it hooked up to your Wi-Fi and all that jazz, it works pretty well. So I've got it right now. I'm just running calc through it and magnesium. I do have another channel for alk, which is like running just a soda ash in case I need to up my alkalinity, because I was dosing a little bit more of that. And then I did have Alpha Reef on it at one point when I was doing that was earlier on in the start of this tank. So I'm not running that right now, but I just have that on the one channel right now, so it's kind of an empty channel. And then I also like to keep my dips and stuff like that back here. You know, it's just nice stuff to have in the tank itself, because I'm always kind of running around grabbing things. And then over here, this is a smart switch. This is all the Casa smart switches, which I love to run on all of my tanks. This one specifically is one of the actual surge protectors, so this one actually shows in the app itself, it shows you how much draw each plug is taking too, so it's kind of nice to monitor things in case for some reason your heater's overworking, and you can kind of just check it every once in a while and see how much it's drawing. I just put a basic strip light. I just put a basic shop light in here, one of the LED shop lights, and it just makes it real simple to light everything up. Again, keep it simple, keep it cheap, no reason to get crazy with it. What else do I keep under here? Okay, I guess we'll just talk about, I always just have something with like a turkey baster, some little tong grabbers, my glue, some fragging supplies, scissors, and then just some various stuff for dosing. Some other stuff I like to keep underneath here that you may have noticed and I didn't go over, I do have some longer tongs just so I don't have to reach in there to grab stuff if something gets knocked down, because this guy likes to knock stuff over every once in a while. I also have some RODI water to spray on the tank itself, and then a squeegee, and it just helps clean off the glass because salt creep tends to get on there, so if you try to wipe it right off with a rag, it just spreads salt everywhere and you can't see in the tank. I also have like my magnetic algae scraper, that's the Higer one. Then I also like to keep my nori feeders under here too, because when I pull them out of the tank they tend to drip, so this is just a good spot to put them. They're inside the sump and they can just dry off and drip in there, no big deal. I like to keep my algae scraper outside of the tank too, just because it doesn't get any of the snails on it for risk of scratching your glass. And I've also had experiences where eventually the magnet will fail and then it will leach into your tank, so it can't do that if it's sitting outside it. So I also like that because we like to keep things great. So that about wraps up my tech talk. If you guys have any questions about the gear I'm running on here, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But don't worry, I'm also going to be making plenty more videos about each specific item of gear, how I like to use it, why I recommend it, and the works. So make sure you stay tuned for those types of things. And if you're interested in learning about the actual livestock I have in this tank in terms of coral and fish, then stay tuned for the next video, because that's what that one's all going to be about.